The galaxy was dying. A message echoed through the void, desperate and weak. It traveled across stars, through broken fleets and ruined worlds, until it reached the one place no one expected, the dead zone. A place where sensors failed, where ships vanished, where the last survivors of an old war hid in silence. On a massive warship, dark and scarred from battle, a woman sat on a throne of black metal. Her name was Lillian, queen of what remained of humanity. She was not old, but her eyes carried the weight of centuries. Round her, the command crew waited in silence. A man stepped forward, his face hard like stone. His name was Ryan Holt, a commander who had seen too much war. "We should ignore it," he said. "They left us to die. Why should we help them now?" A woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice answered. Her name was Alina Shaw, a scientist who studied life across the stars. "Because if we don't, who will?" The message played again. A voice, trembling with fear, begged for help. A great enemy was coming, a swarm that ate worlds. The last strongholds of the weak were falling. They needed warriors. They needed monsters. They needed humans. Lillian leaned forward. "Do they know we're alive?" Alina shook her head. "No, they think we were wiped out long ago." A slow smile touched Lillian's lips. "Good." Ryan crossed his arms. "This is a mistake. We hide for a reason. If we show ourselves now, they'll fear us then, they'll try to kill us again. And if we do nothing," Lillian said, "the swarm will grow stronger. And when they finish with the weak, they'll come for us next." Silence filled the room. Outside the ship, in the darkness of the dead zone, other ships began to wake. Massive, ugly things built for war, not beauty. Weapons powered up. Engines roared to life after years of sleep. Lillian stood. "Prepare the fleet." Ryan opened his mouth to argue, but Alina spoke first. "I'll go ahead. A small team, quiet. We can see what we're dealing with before we commit." Lillian nodded. "Take Mia Carter. She's good at staying alive." Alina left to gather her team. Ryan stayed behind, his jaw tight. "You're risking everything." Lillian looked at the stars outside the window. "No, we're reminding the galaxy why they feared us." Meanwhile, on a dying ship far away, the air smelled of smoke and blood. The last defenders stood behind broken walls, their weapons nearly empty. They had sent out the call for help, but no one came. No one ever came. A young soldier, his hands shaking, turned to his captain. "What do we do now?" The captain had no answer. Then the alarm screamed. Something had entered the system. Something fast, something dark. The soldier's voice trembled. "Is it the swarm?" The captain stared at the screen. "No, this is something else." A single ship, small and sleek, appeared on the scanners. No identification, no signal, just silence. Then a voice crackled over the comms. Female, calm, unafraid. "This is Lieutenant Mia Carter of the Terra Dominion. You asked for help." The captain's blood turned cold. "Terra Dominion. Humans, Deathworlders," the soldier whispered. "Oh no." The small ship glided through space, silent as a shadow. Inside, Lieutenant Mia Carter checked her weapons one last time. Her team stood ready for soldiers, each as quiet as she was. They wore dark armor, scratched and worn from battles no one else remembered. Alina Shaw watched the scanner. "They're scared of us," she said. Mia nodded. "Good. Fear keeps people honest." The dying ship grew larger on the screen. It was damaged, its hull broken in places. Lights flickered inside like a fading heartbeat. Mia opened the comms again. "We're coming aboard. Don't shoot, it'll just make us angry." No answer came. Ship docked with a heavy clang. The airlock hissed open. Mia stepped through first, her rifle ready, but not raised. The hallway beyond was dark, the air thick with the smell of burned metal and sweat. A group of soldiers waited, their weapons shaking in their hands. Their uniforms were torn, their faces pale with exhaustion. Their leader, a man with a bleeding cut on his forehead, stepped forward. You're really humans?" he asked. Mia lowered her rifle slightly. "Yeah, and you're the ones begging for help." The man swallowed hard. "The swarm is coming. They'll be here in ours. We can't stop them." Lena moved past Mia, her eyes scanning the damaged ship. "How many are left?" "Maybe 100, the man said. "The rest didn't make it." Mia looked at her team. "Get them ready to move. We're taking them to the fleet, eh?" The man's eyes widened. The fleet, you have more ships? Mia almost smiled. Oh, you have no idea. Back on the human warship, Queen Lillian listened to the report. Ryan Holt stood beside her, his arms crossed. This is a mistake, he said again. We save them now, and then what? They'll turn on us the second they get the chance. Lillian didn't look at him. Maybe. But right now, they're useful. Elena's voice came over the comms. The swarm is close. We need to move fast. Lillian turned to Ryan. Send in the Helljumpers. Ryan clenched his jaw, but nodded. He walked away, barking orders. On the dying ship, Mia and her team guided the survivors toward the airlock. The people moved slowly, some wounded, others just too tired to hurry. A young soldier, barely more than a boy, stumbled. Mia caught his arm before he fell. Keep moving, she said. We don't have time for stops. The boy looked up at her. Why are you helping us? Mia didn't answer right away. Then she said, because no one else will. A loud alarm blared through the ship. Red lights flashed. Elena's voice was sharp. The swarm is here early. Mia grabbed the boy and shoved him toward the airlock. Run. The hallway behind them exploded. Metal twisted and tore as something huge and dark smashed through the wall. A creature, all claws and teeth, roared into the hallway. Mia didn't hesitate. She raised her rifle and fired. The creature screamed but didn't stop. It lunged at her. Mia ducked, rolling to the side as the thing's claws scraped against her armor. She came up firing again, this time aiming for the eyes. The creature staggered, then collapsed. More screams echoed from deeper in the ship. More things were coming. Mia turned to her team. Go, get them out. They didn't argue. They pushed the survivors through the airlock back to the safety of the human ship. Mia stayed behind, her rifle ready. Elena grabbed her arm. Mia, we have to go. Mia shook her head. Someone has to slow them down. Elena stared at her. Then she nodded and ran. Mia stood alone in the hallway, listening to the sounds of the swarm getting closer. She smiled. Come on then, she whispered. The creatures came, and Mia Carter fought. The human fleet arrived like a storm. Ships tore through space, engines burning bright against the dark. They were not sleek or beautiful, were built for war-thick armor, heavy guns, scars from battles long past. At the center of the fleet was Queen Lillian's flagship, a monstrous thing that cast shadows over the broken ships of the weak. Ryan Holt stood on the bridge, watching the battle unfold on the screens. The swarm was everywhere, endless waves of creatures hurling themselves at the last defenses of the dying. Bring us in close, Lillian ordered. Let them see what's coming. The human ships moved forward. On the ground, the last defenders were losing hope. They fought in the ruins of what was once a great city, their weapons nearly empty, their bodies tired. The swarm crashed against their walls like a tide, breaking through in places. A young soldier, his hands shaking, fired his last shot. He closed his eyes, waiting for death. Then the sky burned. Fire rained down from above, tearing through the swarm. The creatures screamed as explosions ripped them apart. The soldier looked up and saw dark shapes descending from the cloud's human drop pods, slamming into the ground like falling stars. The pods burst open. Out stepped the Helljumpers. They wore heavy armor, their faces hidden behind dark visors. They moved fast, their weapons already firing. The swarm turned to face this new threat, but it was too late. The humans were among them. Sergeant Kyle Briggs led the charge, his rifle roaring in his hands. He didn't stop to aim, he didn't need to. At this range, every shot hit. A creature lunged at him, claws outstretched. Kyle sidestepped, grabbed its arm and broke it over his knee. The thing howled, but Kyle silenced it with a bullet to the head. His squad moved with him, cutting through the swarm like knives through paper. They didn't fight like soldiers, they fought like predators. The defenders watched in shock. One of them, a girl with a bleeding leg, stumbled toward Kyle. You came? Kyle didn't look at her. He kept shooting. Now stay behind us if you want to live. In orbit, the battle was just as fierce. The human ships fired without pause, their guns tearing holes in the swarm's formations. The creatures had no strategy, no fear. They just kept coming, mindless and endless. Lillian watched, her face calm. They're testing us, she said. Alina stood beside her, studying the scanners. They don't understand what we are. Lillian smiled. Then let's show them, she gave the order. A new weapon activated a massive cannon built into the belly of her flagship. It glowed red, then white, then unleashed a beam of pure energy. It cut through the swarm like a sword, burning thousands in an instant. The creatures didn't scream. They didn't have time. For the first time, the swarm hesitated. On the ground, Kyle felt the shift. The creatures were pulling back, regrouping. He grinned behind his helmet. They're scared. His squad laughed over the comms. Then the ground shook. Something huge was coming. The earth split open, and a monster emerged bigger than the others, its body covered in thick plates of armor. It roared, and the sound made the air tremble. The defenders froze. Even Kyle took a step back. Then a voice crackled in his ear. It was Mia. Need help, Kyle? Looked up. Mia's ship hovered above, its guns locked onto the beast. Took you long enough, Kyle said. Mia fired. Monster exploded in a storm of fire and broken armor. Kyle nodded, thanks. Mia's voice was dry. Don't mention it. Back on the flagship, Lillian watched the battle turn. The swarm was retreating, but she knew it wasn't over. Ryan stood beside her. We hurt them, but they'll come back. Lillian nodded. Then we'll be ready. Elena looked at the screens. The others are watching, the ones who called for help. They see what we can do now. Lillian's smile was cold. Good. Let them see. She turned to the comms. It's all ships. Prepare to advance. We're taking the fight to them. The human fleet moved forward, into the dark. The swarm was running. Human ships chased them through the blackness of space, guns firing without pause. The creatures had no strategy left, just fear. They twisted and turned, trying to escape, but there was nowhere to go. The humans had become the hunters now. Inside the flagship, Queen Lillian watched the battle unfold. Her face showed no emotion, but her fingers tapped slowly against the armrest of her command chair. Alina Shaw studied the scanner readings. They're heading toward the neutron star, she said. Ryan Holt frowned. That's suicide. The radiation there would tear them apart. Elena looked up. Exactly. Lillian understood first. They're not running blindly. They're being called. A heavy silence filled the bridge. The swarm wasn't just animals. Something was controlling them. Something smart enough to use the star as a weapon. Lillian stood. We need to cut off the head. On the battlefield below, Sergeant Kyle Briggs and his Helljumpers moved through the ruins of what had once been a city. The ground was littered with dead creatures, but the fight wasn't over. The air smelled of smoke and burning flesh. A young soldier from the Defenders, a boy who couldn't have been more than 16, limped up to Kyle. They're all gone, he said, his voice shaking. But something feels wrong. Kyle nodded. He felt it too. The quiet was worse than the fighting. Then the ground shook. A deep, unnatural vibration rolled through the ruins. The few remaining walls trembled. Dust fell from broken ceilings. Mia Carter's voice crackled over the comms. We've got movement underground. Big movement. Kyle grabbed the young soldier and shoved him toward cover. Get down. The street exploded upward. A creature emerged 3 times the size of the others, its body covered in thick black armor. 6 glowing eyes burned with hate. It moved differently than the rest, with purpose, with intelligence. Kyle raised his rifle, but he knew normal bullets wouldn't scratch this thing. The monster roared, and the sound made the air itself tremble. In space, the human fleet approached the neutron star. The swirling mass of deadly energy filled the view screens, its gravitational pull twisting space around it. Alina studied the readings. The swarm is gathering on the far side. They're using the star's radiation as a shield. Ryan clenched his fists. Can't follow them in there. That much radiation would fry our systems in minutes. Lillian didn't answer right away. Her eyes stayed fixed on the star. Then she turned to the comms. Get me Jake, Torres. A few moments later, a tired voice answered. Torres here. Lillian's voice was calm. I need a volunteer for a one-way trip. There was a pause. Then Torres laughed. About damn time, someone asked. Back on the planet, Kyle and his squad fired everything they had at the massive creature. Bullets sparked off its armor. Grenades barely made it flinch. The young defender soldier crawled to Kyle's side, his face pale with fear. "What is that thing?" Kyle reloaded his rifle. "Their queen, probably." The creature swung a massive claw, smashing through what remained of a building. Concrete and metal flew like leaves in a storm. Mia's voice came through the comms again. "I've got a shot, but I need it to hold still for 3 seconds." Kyle looked at his squad, then at the terrified defenders. He made a decision. "Everyone, fall back," ordered. Then he did the opposite. He ran straight at the monster. The creature turned its many eyes on him. It raised a claw to crush him. Kyle fired his last grenade directly into its face. The explosion made the creature stagger back just for a moment. That was all Mia needed. A single shot rang out from somewhere above. A high-powered round, perfectly placed, struck one of the creature's glowing eyes. The monster screamed a sound so loud, it made Kyle's ears bleed. It thrashed wildly, smashing everything around it. Then it stopped. The massive body shuddered once, twice, then collapsed, shaking the ground as it fell. Silence returned to the battlefield. Kyle breathed hard, his hands shaking. Over the comms, Mia simply said, "Nice distraction." In space, Jake Torres prepared his ship. It was a small, fast fighter not meant for battles like this. He checked his systems one last time. Elena's voice came through his headset. "The plan is simple. You fly into the radiation field, get their attention, then lead them into the star's kill zone." Jake smiled. "Simple. I like simple." Lillian spoke next. Her voice was softer than usual. "You don't have to do this." Jake adjusted his controls. "Yeah, I do." He launched. The small ship streaked toward the neutron star, into the deadly radiation. Alarms blared immediately. His shields were failing. The swarm saw him. They turned as one, chasing the tiny ship. Jake laughed as thousands of creatures followed him toward certain death. "That's right, you ugly bastards. Come and get me." His ship flew straight into the star's gravitational pull. The swarm followed, unable to resist the chase. The last thing the human fleet saw was Jake's ship disappearing into the swirling mass with the entire swarm behind it. Then the star's gravity took them all. Silence filled the flagship's bridge. Lena checked the scanners. The swarm, it's gone. Ryan let out a long breath. "Torres," Lillian closed her eyes for a moment. Then she straightened. "Prepare to retrieve our people from the surface. The war is over." But as she looked at the view screen, at the neutron star that had just consumed so many lives, she knew the truth. Some wars never really end. The war was over. The last of the swarm had been destroyed, torn apart by the neutron star's deadly pull. The human fleet remained in orbit, their ships dark and silent against the endless black of space. Below them, the planet was quiet. The cities were ruins, the battlefields empty. The survivors, those who had begged for help, now huddled together, waiting to see what the humans would do next. On the flagship, Queen Lillian stood at the observation deck, staring down at the world below. Her face showed nothing. Behind her, Ryan Holt and Alina Shaw waited in silence. Finally, Ryan spoke. "We should leave now." Alina shook her head. "We can't just abandon them." Ryan turned to her, his voice hard. "They abandoned us first. Or have you forgotten?" Lillian raised a hand and both fell silent. She didn't look at them. Her eyes stayed fixed on the planet. "Might bring their leaders to me," she said. The meeting took place in the flagship's war room. The survivors had sent 3 representatives, 2 men and a woman, all weary, their faces lined with exhaustion and fear. They stood on one side of the table. Lillian sat on the other, Ryan and Alina beside her. The woman spoke first. We thank you for your help." Lillian said nothing. One of the men swallowed hard. "We didn't know you were still alive. Thought you thought wrong." Ryan cut in. Alina shot him a look, then turned back to the survivors. "What will you do now?" The woman hesitated. "Rebuild, if we can. But we need time, protection." Ryan laughed, a harsh sound. "You want us to stay?" After everything, Lillian finally moved. She leaned forward, resting her hands on the table. "You called for aid. We answered. That was the agreement." The survivors exchanged glances. The second man spoke carefully. We hoped for more." Lillian's voice was ice. Hope is dangerous. Silence filled the room. Then Alina spoke again. We'll give you supplies, enough to start over, but we won't stay. The survivors looked relieved, though still afraid. The woman nodded quickly. Thank you. That's more than we deserve. Lillian stood. The meeting was over. As the survivors were led away, Ryan turned to Lillian. You're being too generous. Lillian didn't answer. She walked to the observation deck again, staring out at the stars. Alina joined her. They'll talk about this. What we did, what we are. Lillian nodded. Let them. On the planet's surface, Kyle Briggs and his Helljumpers prepared to leave. The defenders, those who had survived, watched them with a mix of awe and fear. The young soldier Kyle had saved approached him. You're really going? Kyle checked his rifle one last time. Yeah, but what if they come back? Kyle slung his weapon over his shoulder. Then you'll have to fight. The boy looked down at his hands. We're not like you. Kyle almost smiled. No, you're not. He turned and boarded the dropship without another word. Back in orbit, the human fleet powered up their engines. One by one, the ships turned away from the planet, pointing toward the dark. On the bridge of the flagship, Lillian gave the order. Take us home. The ship moved, gliding silently into the black. Behind them, the planet grew smaller, its people left to rebuild on their own. Ryan stood beside Lillian. They'll tell stories about us, you know. Lillian didn't look back. I know. Alina joined them, her arms crossed. Will they call us heroes or monsters? Lillian finally turned away from the view. Does it matter? The ship jumped to light speed, leaving the system behind. Somewhere in the dark, the galaxy whispered about the Deathworlders who had come from the shadows and then vanished again. And on the flagship, Lillian smiled. Let them whisper.